1 month since the murder of this St. Johns County father of 4 on a quiet street in a Jacksonville Beach neighborhood. For the first time, the widow of St. Johns County man Jared Bridegan is sharing her family's pain.
And this comes as detectives still search for the killer.
Even if you don't care about our family, like, someone's out there that did this. They didn't care that there was a child in the car. They didn't care that he was a great guy. They just shot him. Everyone should care about that.
And tonight, Kirsten Bridegan shares her story only with News4Jax reporter Vic Michelucci. He joins us from the scene of the murder on Sanctuary Way. Vic.
Stacy, it is a crime that has shaken up this community. We have heard from the neighbors who are concerned. Now, for the first time, we are hearing from Jared Bridegan's wife. She is obviously devastated, frustrated, and still frightened for her own family's safety. It happened back there, and right here we see a small memorial with this new sign. That is the truck that detectives are looking for.
Good girl, thanks.
These videos give us a glimpse of who Jared Bridegan was.
I love my dad because he's the best.
Someone who loved his family, humble and humorous. A successful software engineer, but a hands-on father of 4. 9-year-old twins Liam and Abby from a previous marriage. 2-year-old Bexley and a newborn, 6-month-old London.
The minute you met him, you just fell in love with who he was. He honestly was the best dad. Whenever I needed a break, he scooped up all the kids, took them out, did something, or took them outside and gave me a minute to catch my breath.
For Jared's wife, Kirsten, the world stopped on the night of February 16th. He had just dropped off his older 2 children at their mother's house in Jacksonville Beach when he stopped for some reason on Sanctuary Way near JTB. Police believe it's because of this tire in the road. You can hear the gunshots in a neighbor's surveillance. Detectives tell us someone ambushed him at close range, killing him near the driver's door, his flashers on, his 2-year-old daughter Bexley in the back seat. She wasn't hurt.
We started driving down the route we usually take out to the beach. And I kept calling his phone. And then one of the policemen answered it. And that's when I knew, like, my gut feeling was right and something was really wrong. I asked if my husband was okay. I was just told to drive to the police station. And I asked it again, and the same thing, just come to the police station. But that my daughter was okay.
This is pretty much where the scene was.
Jacks Beach police and ATF agents are working tirelessly to solve the case, releasing this video of a dark-colored 2004 to 2008 Ford F-150. It has running boards, brown trim, and a silver toolbox. Investigators are exploring all options, looking at all potential motives, and not ruling out anyone as a suspect. Are detectives still making progress?
They are. It's, because it is an ongoing investigation, there's a lot we can't talk about. But I can tell you that every day they're making a little progress because of the information that's coming in, the information they've obtained through their investigation.
Kirsten, was there anything that happened before that would have been a threat, that would have foreshadowed this murder?
Nothing. No. I've racked my brain. I stay up. I don't get much sleep. I stay up all night long thinking, why? Or, was there any hint that this was coming? And there was none.
Do you want to mix it a little bit?
Bridegan's loved ones are asking, begging for anyone with any information to do the right thing. The reality is, someone watching this could have done it or could know who did this. Yeah. They could be watching this. What is your message to them?
If you know anything, please say. Whether for the money or just help me and his 4 kids get answers. Or just because you're a basic, decent human being, like, please say something. So no one deserves to go through this, especially not Jared.
A really difficult interview to do. If you know anything, the Bridegan family begging for your help. There is now a $13,000 reward from First Coast Crime.
Who would want to kill Jared Bridegan? What do we know about the crime scene? Jared's flashes were on. Nothing was stolen from the car. It was a very narrow road. There was a Nest camera that caught the timestamp of the gun blasts. There was a tire in the middle of the road. There was a blue F-150 seen on a camera in the area. And then I noticed that the police were using a metal detector, looking for shell casings. This tells me that the police knew that the person who shot Jared knew what they were doing in terms of making sure that they got the shell casings before leaving the crime scene. So what the investigators would have at that point is they would have the bullet wounds, the bullets that would be inside Jared, the trajectory of that, but without those shell casings to be able to match a gun and ballistics and all of that, without the shell casings there, you're not going to be able to do that. Also, the Nest camera, being able to get the gunshots, they would be time-stamped. So we would have a timestamp of Jared, basically the exact time of when he was murdered. Also then to look and see what time he dropped off his kids. Also, I want to know the distance between where Jared's ex-wife lived to then where Jared's home was. What was the distance? Where were they before he took his kids home to his ex-wives? Somebody knew Jared's routine. So they had a 1 week on, 1 week off transfer of the kids. And they began this in 2016 and continued all the way up until his death as they were fighting over custody, Jared and his ex. But every Wednesday, if it wasn't your week, you had date night. So you would come pick up the kids and be able to spend a couple hours with them. It's usually like 6 to 8 p.m. Was this someone who knew Jared's routine and path of travel? Yes, it's a little bit of both. This person, in my opinion, knew that Jared would be entering the development where his ex lived to drop off his kids and then be turning around and traveling back the same way that he had just previously came from. Who would have that type of information? Well, yeah, somebody that was stalking him to know his routine, that's what he would do every Wednesday. Or somebody that simply knew that intel without stalking him because you were part of his everyday life. There's no reason that you would have to follow somebody if you knew their routine. So you could be sitting out on the side of the road waiting for someone to then pass you by, only to then, know that you have X amount of minutes to go ahead and set up your roost in the middle of the street in an area that does not have cameras on you. So you would have to, quote unquote, case maybe the surrounding area to see what houses don't have cameras and what houses do, and where you can get away with possibly, maybe you're going to be heard, but you're not going to be seen. So everybody's surveillance cameras around that area, the days leading up and the weeks leading up to his death, in my opinion, would be important to see who was possibly casing that area, who was walking around acting maybe like a mailman or acting like a delivery person, and being able to check and see who had cameras. Obviously, right now, March 21st, 2023, we know that there's been 2 arrests in this homicide. but we're looking at this case and how did the police get to the point that they were able to, pin this murder on that it was a higher type situation. How are you working through the investigation if you don't have that much to go on? And how were you able to obtain documents if you couldn't do it in search warrants and things like that? But the first person that's looked at is obviously the spouse of a person. And I think that Jared's spouse, Kristen, his new wife, was looked over very, very quickly. And they moved on to the fact of his, very, very messy divorce from Shannon Gardner Fernandez. And that here you have, they've been fighting, going back and forth since 2016 for full custody of their children. That is a situation that you'd want to look into. But it would come back that if they have alibis of, we were home with our other kids, or in her situation, whatever this alibi would be, if they have surveillance at that house, if they're seen on their camera at that house. So here they knew that the ex-wife and her husband did not pull the trigger. But does that mean that they were not involved? Then they're going to look at Jared's work. Like, what was he involved with? Jared's friends. Was he involved in any, shady business and things like that? But I'm sure detectives, and as well as Jared's wife, knew that his ex-wife and Jared did not get along. And is she capable of a murder for hire? You have this truck that you're trying to figure out who owns this truck. You also have the bullets that would be, in Jared, what caliber, what type of gun, things like that. Does anybody own a gun in anybody's household? And then look at their extended family and see if anybody owns a caliber gun like that. I would not be surprised or alarmed, as law enforcement would, when people get lawyers really quickly. And there's nothing wrong with that, because when you don't lawyer up, that's sometimes when things can be messy for people that are actually innocent, and them not knowing, them saying something, not realizing what they're really saying. And but at the end of the day, these investigators were left with very, very minimal physical evidence. And so they would have to use, I think, a ton of different techniques and investigative tools to break down how you got to be able to arrest Henry Tenner, and how you got him to come clean with wanting to plead guilty to everything and also turn in Mario Fernandez, the husband of Jared's ex-wife, the new husband. So how does that all play out? How do you get to that, finale? And they did it within a year. And that's the part that's interesting for me as an investigative journalist, or, investigating anything, is all the little intricacies to get it so that you got the right person or persons and you got everybody involved so that true justice can happen. In Jared's situation with his ex-wife, she comes from a very, very wealthy family. And so do I think that money would be the motivator for Jared's ex-wife to kill Jared? No. Gardner Fernandez was very well off with her finances. To me, the only motive would be there is that you didn't want to share your children half the time, as well as if there was a true hatred there. But as far as money being any type of motivating factor with Gardner Fernandez, that's just simply not there for me looking at this, and when you break down their finances. So the motive to me would just be the fact that you didn't want to share your children, and that you despise somebody, and wanted to make their life a living hell. Or you got to look at the ex-wife's husband, and, was he threatened by Jared? Did his new wife still want her ex-husband? And that's where I was with this. I don't think that it had anything to do with Microsoft and what he was doing with his work. But could there be strong arguments for that? Possibly, depending on what came up in the investigation. But my question is what were they able to obtain through probable cause search warrants that we have reason to believe that you were involved in a crime? What were those judges signing off on for probable cause when it came to the ex-wife and her husband and their inner circle? Paying attention to people's their everyday life, like what has changed. And here, January 24th, 2023, right before that they're announced that there's going to be an arrest for Jared's murder, or possibly multiple arrests, the ex-wife of slain Microsoft executive Jared Bridegan has moved 2,800 miles from Florida to the Pacific Northwest as investigators are about to announce that an arrest is imminent in the unsolved murder. Nearly 1 year after the father of four was executed in front of his toddler, Bexley, in North Florida, Shanna Gardner Fernandez quietly uprooted her 10-year-old twins with Jared and relocated to West Richland, Washington. When asked Monday to comment on the significant development in the case, she responded, "No, I'm sorry." Minutes later, she was spotted in her white Tesla in a grocery store parking lot, speaking on her cell phone. Gardner Fernandez, who also goes by Gardner, told Action News Jax in a June interview that despite everything her family has been through, they had no intentions of leaving Jacksonville Beach. Jared's second wife, Kristen Bridegan, with whom he shares 3-year-old now Bexley and 1-year-old London, said she was stunned Gardner Fernandez has moved so far away. "Honestly, I was shocked," she told Fox News Digital in an interview Monday. "First, the twins lost their dad, then they were completely cut off from their own sisters, and now they're being taken away from their school friends and their sports teams. They are so isolated, and that just concerns me." Jared had custody of the twins every other week, but soon after his murder, Gardner Fernandez ended all contact with his family, according to Kristen. "It's been an added loss," she said. "On top of losing Jared, my children have lost their siblings. I've lost my stepkids. I've tried for months and months to make contact and have gotten nowhere." Gardner Fernandez, 35, and Bridegan, 33, divorced in 2016, but they continued to battle over finances and custody of the twins in family court until his death on February 16, 2022. A law enforcement source told Fox News Digital that an arrest is expected as early as Wednesday, but would not elaborate. Gardner Fernandez and her second husband, Mario Fernandez, remain suspects in the mysterious killing, according to a second source. In the June interview with Action News Jax, we asked Gardner Fernandez, "Did you have anything to do with Jared's murder?" Gardner answered simply, "No, I did not have anything to do with his murder." After the murder, the couple retained high-powered criminal defense lawyer Henry Cox III, who declined to comment for this story. Less than 1 year after the children traumatically lost their father, Gardner Fernandez pulled them out of their private Jacksonville Beach school and moved them into a 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom house in the Tri-Cities area of southeastern Washington. Property records show that the modern ranch home was purchased in September for $1 million by White Sand LLC, which lists the Alpine, Utah address of her parents, Shelley and Sterling Gardner. Shelley Gardner founded the paper craft company Stampin' Up!, which has an estimated annual revenue of more than $100 million a year, according to Inc. Fact. Her parents are prominent fixtures in the Mormon community known as the Church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They were in West Richland this past week visiting with their daughter and their grandchildren and attended a service solo Sunday at a local LDS church. Jared was a devoted adherent of the faith. Gardner Fernandez drifted from the religion after their 2010 marriage and then allegedly had an affair, triggering the split. Her second marriage is also faltering. Shortly after the murder, neighbors said that they no longer saw Mario Fernandez at the couple's $1 million Jacksonville Beach home, which they co-own, and he did not join her for the cross-country move. It was listed for sale October 27th, then taken off the market January 3rd, public records show. Gardner Fernandez's primary connection to West Richland appears to be a friend she met at a baking conference in 2020, Marla Rogers, who owns the home next door. Rogers runs Marla's Cookie Company out of her house, much like Gardner Fernandez operated her own, now shuttered, baking company, Beach Baked 904, from her home in Florida. Gardner Fernandez made a brief appearance Sunday in a video Rogers posted to her company's Instagram page. As Rogers is seen cleaning up after teaching a cooking decorating class, Gardner Fernandez enters her kitchen wearing a shirt with the phrase, "Please don't make me do stuff." Jared was gunned down February 16, 2022 in Jacksonville Beach after taking his twins and Bexley, then two, to dinner. The software engineer had just dropped off the twins at their mother's house when he encountered a tire in the one-way road. He stepped out of his Volkswagen to move it and was repeatedly shot by an unknown assailant as Bexley watched from her car seat. "She has good days where she's happy," Kristen said, "but it's going to be a lifetime for her of processing those feelings and the trauma of what she went through." Few details have been released about the investigation, a joint effort by the Jacksonville Police Department and the state's attorney's office for the 4th Judicial Circuit led by Melissa Nelson. Early in the probe, police asked for the public's help identifying a dark blue Ford F-150 captured on surveillance footage near the crime scene, and there is a $55,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. Kristen said she and her daughters are trying to heal, but New Year's was particularly challenging. "We ended the last year that we were a complete family and started an entirely new year that will not have those memories or Jared in them," she said. "That was very difficult." Please stay tuned for more podcast-type episodes from the murder of Jared Bridegan, as well as his road and his journey to justice.